You are Locked On Tigers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome into a live Locked On Tigers postcast. Hopefully you've woken up from that snoozer of a game. If you're like me, you probably took a nap during the game because, that was boring. The Tigers get swept by the Guardians, 5-0 the final in this one. We no longer have any starting pitchers. It was yet another bullpen day. We're going to break it all down and probably, if I'm being honest, spend the majority of the show talking about the final hours leading up to the July 30th MLB Trade Deadline. Hello, everybody. My name is Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. Used to be with 97.1 The Ticket, the flagship of the night of the Detroit Tigers. Now with Locked On Sports Detroit. So this is your friendly reminder. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe. Wow, let's try to get that one out. I did not have any cocktails during the game as much as I wanted to. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit. And thank you for making us your first listen following the final out of the game. First listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. It's all part Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. That's right. Prize Picks is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, I've already cut to the chase on today's episode, but hey, we've got a couple more hours, and if a trade goes down live on the air, how about that, sports fans? That would be exciting. But as we are to date, and if you're catching the live show, you're with us every step of the way. If you're catching the recorded version, the audio only version, or if you're just watching later on YouTube, hopefully something has changed, but let me just tell you, nothing has happened yet. So we'll just keep continuing. I feel like Adam Schefter just staring at my phone. I'm hearing no. I don't think nothing has happened yet. But again, if anything changes, here we go. So let's just get to, before we get to the trade deadline stuff, let's get to how bad this Tigers offense has been, because it's more of the same. And I know they eventually scored 4 runs last night, but I mean, they were out of it. It was 7-0 in that game. You lose 2 of 3 against the Twins, getting shut out 5-0 on Sunday. And today you just didn't have a chance. 5-0 again. And for a bullpen day, I mean, the Guardians were held off the scoreboard until the 4th. God forbid the Tigers get any kind of offensive momentum going for their bullpen day pitching staff with the offense that's just shut down once again. A run for Cleveland in the 4th and the 5th, and then broke it open a little bit later. The 2-run home run from Jose Ramirez, and then one more in the 9th. So we can beat the dead horse. We can play the broken record. And I want to get to the comments here in just a moment, because a lot of people want to weigh in, and that's what makes this fun and exciting. We'll get to the comments, everybody watching live on YouTube. And I should say it's a day game. That means you get to miss work. So tell the boss I gave you full permission to stop the PowerPoints, the presentations, the spreadsheets, whatever you got going, and dial it in to Locked On Sports Detroit and a Locked On Tigers postcast. But the team that's trotting out there now for the fighting AJ Hinches and fearless leader Scott Harris's it's just not worth watching. It's a garbage product. And we did feel good about ourselves on Saturday night, where you had the buzz in the ballpark. It was electric. You had Tarik Skubal on the mound. You had Colt Keith going yard. But since then, it's just a dead, lifeless team that is playing like sellers. And that's okay in the sense that this team is who we thought they were. I don't know who posted it, but so I made sure I retweeted it, but that this Tigers team is the Dennis Green gif of his meltdown at the podium after his Cardinals lost to the Bears when he said, the Bears are who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. We let him off the hook. Let me just give credit to whoever tweeted that out because I thought it was hilarious and I made sure to retweet it. But that's exactly what it is. It's the Bears are who we thought they are. The Lions are who we thought they were. The Tigers are who we thought they are. There we are. It was Sam Ollie, formerly, I think he's still with Mid-Michigan Sports, but 2024 Detroit Tigers, they are who we thought they were. So that's where we're at with this ball club. They lose again, continue to plummet below 500. And this team was a lot of fun for a couple of weeks, and that had everybody singing their praises. And I hope that my stance has stayed true throughout all of this, because it can take some twists and turns, sure. But my stance from the very beginning is, yes, there are some pieces there, and there's some things to get excited about. And that's what makes it so frustrating that Scott Harris, Chris Ilitch, and the rest of the front office didn't do anything to address the glaring needs of this team and expected to just roll it out and were content with not being good. And then, oh, by the way, you get a couple months into the season and this team shows a little bit of fight. This team shows a little bit of promise, but there's too many gaping holes. Water is eventually going to find its level. So my biggest beef from the very beginning was there were bats available in free agency last offseason, and they just did nothing to address it. So we're left with this team that just doesn't have the staying power to remain relevant. And now you get to the trade deadline. Everybody's talking. Do you buy? Do you sell? You got to sell Tarik Skubal because of the haul. And then you got people on 97.1 The Ticket like Mark Ryan calling you an idiot if you think this Tigers team should sell and shaming. And I just don't think that's the case. I think it's very matter of fact. If there's a deal that you can't say no on with Tarik Skubal, then yeah, you make the move. And Jack Flaherty, with him being a rental player, if you truly believe that he's coming back to Detroit if the Tigers don't trade him, then sure. You've got Flaherty, you've got Skubal, you've got Reese Olson. That is a heck of a rotation to look forward to, but there's just no guarantee that Flaherty would be back. And we don't have to look too far into the rear view mirror to see what happened last year at this time when Scott Harris got fleeced and didn't know or refused to believe, whatever it is, that Erod wasn't going to waive his no trade clause to the Dodgers. And so the Tigers get nothing for him. He leaves in free agency. And this offseason, I know he hasn't done much, or he hasn't done anything for Arizona this year, but it's just the concept is Scott Harris got fleeced, and now we're leading up to the deadline, 250 or 350 right now. So we've got a couple more hours and we just wait and wait and wait. Is anything going to happen? But it's starting to feel like Flaherty might not be on the move. And Scott Harris is going to speak to the media at 7:00. Jeff Rieger tweeting it out. My man, Jeff Rieger. This is when I wish, if you can see behind me, other way, see behind me, my old Tigers credential. This is when I wish I was able to be in the clubhouse and ask Scott Harris some comment or some pressing questions. I know Rieger will do a good job with that. But the Tigers did just make a trade 3 minutes ago, finalizing a deal to acquire Andrew Chaffin. That's another deal with the Rangers. This is from Jeff Passan. So again, we're doing this in real time. Bear with me, everybody. Texas Rangers finalizing a deal to acquire left-handed reliever Andrew Chaffin from the Detroit Tigers. Sources tell ESPN. Wow, what a time to be a Rangers fan. You're the defending world champions, and you have a worse record than the Tigers, but you're in the American League West, and I think as of this morning, they were just 3 games out of first place, fighting with the Astros and Mariners. Mariners bought, obviously, adding a couple of pieces. The Astros sold out. The Astros, that's another reason why, if you're in the trade Flaherty camp, you could make, all you have to do is look at the trade the Astros made last night to get a starting pitcher, and Yusei Kikuchi from Toronto that is just objectively way worse, or not even close, can't even sniff the jockstrap of Jack Flaherty. And the Houston Astros give up their number 9 prospect and their number 14 prospect, and I don't want to say an everyday player, but a guy that spent some time at AAA and in the big leagues for the Houston Astros. So that's the haul that a guy like Yusei Kikuchi from the Blue Jays is demanding. Imagine what you could get for Jack Flaherty. So All right, we've got one trade that's happened live on the show. Let's get to the comments as I promised we would. And there's just, again, if we want to talk baseball, we absolutely can. But it's just not a really exciting product to talk about right now. And we've got a couple hours before the end of the trade deadline. Matt Wood says back to the Tigers of June. My guy Mark was hoping you'd wait until deadline passed. Sorry, contractually obligated post-game show to get on the air. My apologies, Mark. But you know what? You'll definitely have Scott Bentley later tonight on Locked On Tigers. Lots of good stuff to listen to, but here we are. And I get your point. Waiting until the deadline, there'd be more to talk about. But live and local, baby. That's the motto. Well, your first listen after the final out. So got to respect that, but appreciate the compliment, kind of. But anyways, we do have something to talk about with the trade live on the air with the Andrew Chaffin trade. I mean, as a left-handed reliever, you kind of knew that he'd be on his way. Not new, but that's a guy that has some value just in terms of what he can be out of the bullpen for a team like the Texas Rangers, who are contending, even though they have a worse record than the Detroit Tigers. Gosh, I wish the Tigers were in the American League West. All right, Demetrius McNeil, what sealed the Tigers' fate is 3 double plays. Yep, 2 shutouts in 1 week. Yeah, I didn't mention that. I'm watching that game, and it's a double play to end 3 consecutive innings. It's like every time the Tigers get a guy on, the next guy's just going to hammer it into the ground for a nice, easy double play. It was like fielding practice for the Guardians infield. I guess the Tigers' mojo is fading away in a baby offense we are watching. Come back Thursday, 6:40 p.m. There you go. Yeah, Royals come to town. The Royals at least are a fun team to watch. God, what a concept. The Royals were one of the worst teams last year. Worst teams, 50 wins. And all of a sudden they make some investments and they care about their team and they care about the product they put on the field. And lo and behold, they're an exciting team to watch competing for a wild card spot. God, that must be nice to be a Royals fan. All right. Appreciate it. Martin Radio, Chaffin traded. We got to that. Yes. And actually that's a good point, because when you're self-producing, you got the graphics up there. You got to make sure the audio is good. You got to read the comments. You got to follow the rundown. If anybody sees or hears of a trade happening, go ahead and let me know in the comments. We don't need any funny pranksters out there playing some jokes. No fake Adam Schefter tweets or anything like that. But we'll all help keep each other abreast, as they say. All right. YouTube user says, I don't believe the Orioles ever had any interest in Tarik Skubal. They get swept in the first round of the playoffs. Their fans will be terribly disappointed. Yeah, I think they did have an interest in Tarik Skubal, and I guess I could be wrong, but I mean, they made a trade to get Trevor Rogers from the Marlins, and so you get that left-handed pitcher. You got to believe that an organization like the Orioles saw some value, and who wouldn't see the value in the best pitcher in the American League? My goodness, they probably just don't want to give it up as many prospects because they're so prospect driven. Right. All right. No name calling, but that is funny. All righty. All right. We're going to take a quick break. I've gone a little bit long in this first segment. Appreciate everybody tuning in. It's always a pleasure to be on the air for Locked On Tigers postcast, even when the Tigers product on the field is a snooze fest. Tigers lose 5-0. At now puts the old English D at 52-57, 25-28 at home. We'll take a quick break and continue to chop it up. I think it's kind of a to hell with the rundown kind of day as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. Tigers just make a trade in sending Andrew Chaffin to the Texas Rangers. Sad day, because I really liked Andrew Chaffin, but not sure what the return is yet. Nothing from Jeff Passan or anybody online, so keep you updated on that. Back in a moment here on Locked On Tigers Postcast. This episode of Locked On Tigers Postcast is brought to you by the pros at Supply House and supplyhouse.com. Listen up, my friends. You can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to help you get the job done right. Maybe if Scott Harris is listening, he could call Supply House. He needs some help getting the job done right. You can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, no problem. You can get expert support, industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and get this, you talk to a real person. What a concept. No automated answering machine recording device. No, none of that. You talk to a real person every time. Friendliest pros in the business. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. I don't mean to yell. It's just a really, really good deal that you got to check it out. Supplyhouse.com. Second segment of the day, and let me see what I add on the rundown. The rundown, a trade deadline. We've kind of got to that, especially with a live trade happening on the air with Andrew Chaffin going to the Texas Rangers, and that's good. I got a lot of friends that are Texas Rangers fans, world champions, defending world champions, gearing up for another run. And I'll tell them all about Andrew Chaffin. He's a good pitcher, obviously adds some value. Late innings out of the bullpen, was really good early in the season. Hit a little bit of a rough patch, but started to work back from that. Brings a lot of personality, kind of a good locker room clubhouse guy if you put value in that. So all my Rangers fans watching, got you covered. Now, next segment of the show, I do want to get speak while we're talking bullpen. I meant to get to it in the opening segment, but Tyler Holton's been really, really good. He was a starter again today, 2 innings. That was from his last time where he opened in that bullpen day in Cleveland with a 3-0 win, but has not given up an earned run in his last. Wow, that's a lot. Am I reading that right? Oh my goodness. 15 innings in July and did not give up an earned run. Way to go, Tyler Holton. I knew he had been good, but wow, my goodness, really, really good. So Tyler Holton, he's another one that is a lefty out of the bullpen, but I guess the Rangers wanted to make the deal with Andrew Chaffin. But nice afternoon from Tyler Holton. He was really, really good. Alex Faedo is the one that's going to pick up the loss, an inning and 2/3, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, and a strikeout. The long ball is what did the Tigers in today. Josh Naylor homered to open the scoring. And then obviously Jose Ramirez and Rocchio in the 9th inning. I was hoping, Jose Ramirez would get his revenge, but this is not and because if you saw the clip with Rocchio when he was pulling on his head and Ramirez kind of turned back at him like, I'm going to actually beat you up. That would have been hilarious to see, but to no such luck for us. So Tigers lose 5-0 to the Cleveland Guardians. No longer selling hope. The season's over. Obviously, Tigers selling some pieces off here at the deadline. Carson Kelly goes to the Rangers a couple days ago, and then Andrew Chaffin today also to the Rangers. But the big pieces, Jack Flaherty. I am fine with trading Jack Flaherty, especially when you consider the haul that you could get back for him. All you have to do is look at that trade with the Astros and Blue Jays. A much better pitcher Jack Flaherty is than Yusei Kikuchi for the Blue Jays, which I don't have his stats in front of me, but I know he's 4-9 with a 4.7 something ERA. Just ridiculous how much better Jack Flaherty is than Yusei Kikuchi. And the Astros gave up number 9 prospect, number 14, and the number 9 prospect, Jake Bloss, is a starting pitcher. So obviously there's some value there. But alas, Scott Harris is going to address the media at 7:00. Can't wait to hear what he has to say. That'll be appointment viewing, as they call it. So that'll be an hour after the conclusion of the trade deadline. if there's a move made or if there's not. We will see, as they say in the biz, because I put this on the rundown that Scott Harris at some point has to be on the hot seat. He has to be held accountable. And I know it's early, but since he's taken over, and I know there was an uphill battle, and maybe you point to some of the, I guess, wins that he's had and say, okay, let's give him some more time. But if this is back-to-back trade deadlines that are completely botched, and you have a fan base that in no way, shape, or form trusts anything that you're doing, doesn't trust the direction of the organization. And I know fan base is a general term, but you could make the case that he's done nothing to win the trust of the fan base. You've got an owner that doesn't spend, that treats this team like a low budget, small market team. I mean, honestly, what the heck is there? What's the point? I mean, I'm wearing the Tigers hat right now as I take it off on live on our Locked On Tigers postcast. Sorry for those that aren't watching, but you might as well just throw it away. I mean, what is the point if the team's not going to be run like a contending team? It's just so frustrating. And, you know, sometimes I get that you have to take steps backwards to take steps forward. You have to make moves. You have to get moves done. I think of what Neil Rule said the other day on Woodward Sports, that this team has so many holes that if you have a market that was so hot for starting pitching, that a guy like Yusei Kikuchi for the Blue Jays is yielding 3 prospects, 2 of them being top prospects, and you couldn't get a deal done to move Jack Flaherty. And again, this all goes away, and I want this to be heard. This all goes away if Jack Flaherty doesn't get traded and is back with the Tigers next year. But if we have another Erod situation where he walks in free agency and the Tigers get nothing for him, that is malpractice. Back-to-back years at the trade deadline from the Tigers general manager. So unfortunately, we can't necessarily determine the level at which Scott Harris potentially could have botched this trade deadline until the conclusion of free agency, depending on what happens with Jack Flaherty. And again, I mean, we got 2 more hours, so I guess I'll pump the brakes a little bit here. We got 2 more hours. Maybe there's some Moneyball scenes going on right now. Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill answering the phone, and you're going to get the gif of Jonah Hill fist pumping, saying we got the deal done. Or, you know what? Again, if you want to sell me that this Tigers team is that close, and based on what we've seen the last couple of days, that's a hard sell. But if they're that close, Tarik Skubal stays, Jack Flaherty stays, you add pieces in the offseason by, I don't know, opening up the checkbook a little bit, paying a bat to come be a force in the middle of the lineup. And no disrespect to Mark Canha or Gio Urshela, but those are the 2 big name offseason acquisitions that you came up with this past offseason, and you really sold the fan base. You gaslighted the fan base on those 2 big offseason acquisitions. Yeah, if we have another offseason like that, then Dan, to answer your question, I appreciate you tuning in, man. Dan, to answer your question, absolutely hot seat all the way. And a big middle finger right back at you about the comment you had about my Northwood shirt. I will always be repping Northwood on Locked On Tigers postcast, just so you know. But appreciate you tuning in. That's our friendly banter and rivalry that we've got with Dan there in the comments. But appreciate everybody tuning in. We got one more segment. Don't go anywhere. It's always a pleasure to be on the air. We will see if Scott Harris makes any more moves while we're live on the air, because again, Scott Harris is going to address the media at 7 o'clock. Andrew Chaffin is a Texas Ranger. He's coming to Arlington and leaving Detroit. Return remains to be seen. All right, back in a moment. Locked On Tigers postcast. Don't go anywhere on Locked On Sports Detroit. This episode of Locked On Tigers Postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Add a little sizzle to your viewing experience. Come on, what are you waiting for? It's easy. All you do is pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, 2 to 6 players, and watch the winnings roll on in. You can get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Now, all you have to do to win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks and turn $10 into 1,000 is pick more or less. Come on, it's that easy. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on Prize Picks. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into 1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. Shout out to the USA women's gymnastics. I got to make sure I say the right things here, but yes, gold medals. We love that. You can make a Prize Picks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 players stat projections, and you're locked in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. They lower select player stat projections on Tuesdays, and on Fridays, you can get your entry fee back if you have a losing lineup. Well, if only the Tigers could get back all the losses they've had on Fridays. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. You pick more, you pick less. It's that easy. Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left because I've been on another level. It is one of those days, I suppose, because I just have had little things here go wrong, and I don't mean to take it out on anybody. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Dan and I have a great relationship, so that little back and forth is it's all par for the course, as they say. But MLB TV, the product, absolutely dog bleep. It was so bad today. I had commercials running in the middle of the game. The audio was completely messed up. It was the classic commercials 10 times louder than the actual broadcast. They didn't have the broadcast working of the third reporter, of the field reporter. So many problems. So you know what? I finally had to say something to my MLB TV customer service. I don't like being that guy. I know I'm probably classified as a Karen, but you're paying for a service, and it's a poor product. It's a lackluster product. The viewing experience is terrible. So I had to get into it a little bit with the customer service rep that I was dealing with, and I don't feel good about it. But at the same time, someone had to say something. Someone had to hold them accountable. But anybody else having issues with MLB TV, it's just been really, really bad. The overall broadcast production has been egregiously bad the last week or so. The commercials going in the middle of the game is just bizarre. I can't take it anymore. So in summary, we talked a lot today. Dana Brown, the Astros GM, and I meant to have this comment earlier. I was listening to his press conference last night after the Astros made that trade for Yusei Kikuchi of the Blue Jays. And to summarize, he basically just said, we had to do a deal. We had to go all out for a starting pitcher. The market is hot for a starting pitcher. It's a seller's market. Buyers were desperate because he was taking some heat. The Astros have taken some heat for all they gave up for Yusei Kikuchi from Toronto. And meanwhile, you've got a pitcher that is 10 times better than him and Jack Flaherty just sitting on a selling team in the Tigers, and Scott Harris hasn't gotten it done. So I guess I'll take the last couple of minutes to just say, this is the beauty of a live production. If things change between now and the trade deadline, which is in just under 2 hours, if something gets done, final couple hours, then sure, we will. That was me rewinding the tape, which if anybody's watching, that was a little bit scary, but we'll rewind the tape. I'll maybe apologize or just try to make sense more of it. But hey, we have a live show immediately following the Detroit Tigers game, the conclusion of the game, and we are leading up to the trade deadline, so we're going to call it how it is. And as to this point, Scott Harris has been asleep at the wheel in a market that is desperate for starting pitcher. You've got the most probably the most appealing piece in all of baseball, maybe even the two most appealing pieces if you want to throw in Skubal with that, and no deal has been made. And meanwhile, Javi Baez is our shortstop, and we don't have a center fielder. Maybe Parker Meadows, but the point being, we don't we've got a lot of holes, and we can't develop players, and we don't spend money on free agents. So that's a bad combination. It just clicked in my head. And Matt, I appreciate it. Just do a 2-hour show. If you will foot the bill for that, I'm all in. No, I kid. But maybe we'll do some YouTube shorts later tonight if something's done. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit. Off day tomorrow, which is kind of a bummer. But hey, call my bosses at Locked On and say you want more of Jake Remo. Well, that's a scary thought. Who would ever want that? But I'm just the post-game guy. Don't you worry. All right, Locked On Tigers postcast, another edition in the books. Always a pleasure to be on the air with you guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you don't yet subscribe, what the heck you waiting for? Make sure you subscribe. Tell a friend about it. Off day tomorrow before the Royals come to town. I believe it's a 4-game series with Kansas City. So, hey, we get to watch an exciting team because we know the Tigers sure as heck are not. Bobby Witt Jr. will be fun to watch, what it looks like to have a real shortstop. And even then, it's more exciting than watching whoever the Tigers trot out there. But that said, trade deadline is under 2 hours away. We'll see what goes down. If anything, Tigers lose to the Guardians 5-0. They're swept out of town. The season is over. It's a sad, sad day. But appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. If you don't want to go back to work, just play this on loop. We could use the views. All right. I crack myself up. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time on Locked On Tigers Postcast.